Okay. Did you hear anything that you didn't know? Are you being frustrated by this, like some of your colleagues are?
Well, obviously, look, the process is extremely frustrating, but actually this is the first real briefing that we've had that we've now made, I would say, progress on. Some of the claims Mr. Grush has made in his complaint and some of the claims he provided to Congress. This is the first time we kind of got a ruling on what the IG thinks of those claims. And so, so this meeting, unlike the one we had previously when we did this briefing, this one actually moved the needle.
Very good. So that'll lead to more public hearings?
Oh, I think this one's going to lead to a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of new questions and a lot of new areas to ask and poke in based on what we got in this meeting.
Can you give us a sense of what new questions you have?
Well, right. So let me just give you a hypothetical, because I'm not going to share anything from a classified briefing. But if someone makes 10 claims and then someone says, well, we didn't look into all 10 because they weren't all in the report, but hey, we found these 6 very credible based on it, well, then you would want to go attack those 6. That's what I'm saying. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So did you hear anything in there that moves the needle forward, that changes what you thought before? Are they stonewalling you? Walk us through what do you know now that you didn't know when you walked in?
I just think what most of the American people fear is true, is that the government, there's a concerted effort to conceal as much information as possible, both from Congress and to the general public. So I asked very specific questions and was unable to get specific answers. And so that's a problem, and we're not going to stop until we get the truth.
So do you think that you're not getting specific answers because they won't tell you or because they don't know?
Well, I think what you see is a very compartmentalized effort. So by compartmentalizing the information to such a degree that if you don't ask the specific question to the specific person that has that piece of information, so we could take a puzzle with 100 pieces and disseminate it to 47 people. So unless you ask the right person for the right piece of the puzzle, you're not going to get an answer, and that's what's happened here.
Did you learn anything new today?
Nothing that I can disclose. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, do you hear the same thing with Mr. Christomorthy?
So this is what I'll say. I'm going to reiterate, we can't talk about specifics and what we got into, but what I can tell you is what Grush shared with me in an unclassified setting that I firmly believe in. I believe that he's telling the truth. I think that he is a credible witness, and what I can also say is one thing in particular that really caused me to be concerned about this whole thing is that Grush had stated to myself, Representative Burchett, and another member on the phone that there were people that were hurt hiding this information and keeping this information safe and or trying to come forward with this information. What I can tell you is I believe that claim after now leaving. And that's all I'll say now.
Do you think that the administration is sending the right people? Do you think that you guys are actually talking to the right people in these classified?
I think that they are sending the correct people on paper. However, there is, and it's become evident that there is an overclassification and that we are continually being stonewalled. My one concern is that we are authorizing money that is supposed to be spent on certain programs, and yet there is compartmentalization in which Congress doesn't have access to oversight in those programs, and that's a problem.
Are you more concerned leaving now than you were going in?
I feel the same. I think that I'm pretty much at the same space that I was. This entire process has been what facts do we have. Again, the credibility of the witnesses is incredibly important, and I think that we have very credible people.
How much of this is the distinction of saying, okay, there are certain programs that we have that are dark programs that we need to be very careful about letting that information out. Some of that can be attributed to what people have said versus this conversation about Grush and some of the claims he made in the open hearing about non-human biologics?
You know, as of right now, we didn't get into the specifics of that in there, but what I will say is that it has become apparent that there is a movement, whether it's within the intelligence community or not, to prevent us from finding out more information on this. And so we are going to do what we need to do as investigators to continue to pull on whatever strings and see where they lead. I think it's incredibly important to listen to the specific words that Grush uses. You know, Grush never said extraterrestrial or alien, he said interdimensional. I think that that's incredibly important because those are the types of things that when we go in there, there's just certain things that I think that it's important that you guys listen to on that.
On government funding, quickly, I know you voted yesterday, you still voted against.
This is UAP today, so thank you guys.
Can I get clarification?
Yes, one more.
You said interdimensional. I mean, now, what does that term, is this something that bends time and space? What are you getting at here?
I think that Grush, when I had talked to him on whether these were specifically extraterrestrials or alien in origin, he said interdimensional. He refused to use certain terms, and I think that's incredibly important because I think that that's really the question we're all wanting to know, right? And so I'm actually going to have a sit-down conversation with him and ask him to come back and talk to us directly, because it seems that we are getting more information from the source than going into a SCIF and then not being able to tell you guys what we're talking about.
Is this stuff that we just, as humans, might not be able to understand if it's interdimensional?
I think that we can understand it. I think that it's just, it's an approach, right? I mean, like, remember, we just now for the first time in history really had Congress have whistleblowers come forward credible that we're telling the entire world that there is something other than human life forms. Grush said that those were interdimensional beings. He refused to use extraterrestrial and alien. I think that's important to note, but I do have to go feed my baby, so thank you guys.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll step on the side so she looks at me.
Yeah,
I know, sorry.
Do you mind standing in between the cameras?
Chad.
No, heck no. This is just more of the same, more frustration. You put these guys and gals in a tough position. They're only, it's very compartmentalized, as we said. It's like looking down the barrel of a .22 rifle, and all they know is just right in that little circle. And but no, it didn't disqualify anything I've thought in the past.
What comes out of this meeting? What do you do in response to this stonewalling?
Well, it's just whack-a-mole. You go to the next one until we get some answers. We got some pretty definitive stuff that that I'm sure y'all get from somewhere else about what was discussed, and to me it was it made what I think more credible.
So they did tell you something. They didn't tell you nothing.
That's correct.
Okay. Because first you came out and you said we didn't learn anything new.
Well, we didn't learn anything new. It just verified what I thought.
Does that move the needle for you at all?
No, I think they're covering this thing up. That doesn't, and these guys pretty much verified that. They, as I stated, I mean, it's not their attempt to do it, but by design, this issue is very compartmentalized.
So what does the investigation look like going forward? Is it more hearings? More
I think so, but it's got me focused on who we need to be bringing into the hearing. As I've stated, it's not about little green men and flying saucers. The issue is tens of millions of dollars on an issue that we've been told does not exist since 1947, yet they're spending that money on researching something.
So who would you prefer to bring in front
Well,
of
last time I did that, our selection dwindled, so I'm going to keep that pretty close to the cuff because they ended up getting told not to come. Good?
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
No. Y'all don't know? He's single, by the way.
You tried to set him up with Caitlin.
Well, he seems very happy. He's very happy, so I'm trying to ruin that for him.
I'll put that on the news, please.
Yes.
I'll just.
Okay. Okay. Did you hear anything?
It's giving me a more clear perspective, a little bit more of a clear perspective. Before it's very blurry. Everything is extremely blurry, but I'm getting a little bit more clarity. Without saying anything that came out of the hearing, I will say that my worldview has not changed.
Are they, okay, then one more thing, and then I probably let you go. Are they obfuscating on purpose? Are they sending you the people
No.
that don't have the answers? Or is it, like Mr. Burgess said, it's so compartmentalized that like you have to ask the right question of the right person? Is that what you're feeling?
Yes, that's exactly. I would say Tim Burchett is probably right. He is correct.
So with this person doing this briefing, did you get any of the right questions that he was willing to put out there and give you something that you feel like you've learned something more?
I feel like he gave a lot of clarity to me. I think that some people are looking for things. This was not the venue to determine those things, but for me, I got a lot of clarity.
Are you satisfied with the answers you got today? Or?
I'm not full. I mean, not fully. But it does give us a direction to go next, and that's the key thing.
So where do you guys go from here?
I can't say.
Are we alone?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you feel as though they were more transparent this time? Did you get anything that you didn't know before?
I'm more concerned than I was going into the SCIF, and I think that they have a lot of questions that remain unanswered. And you know, Mr. Grush has made allegations that we're still trying to figure out the veracity of, and we haven't gotten the answers that we need.
And what do you mean more concerned? I mean, they stonewalled more, or what caused you to be more concerned?
My impression is that, unfortunately, I don't think that we're looking at the substance of his claims, and instead we're kind of dancing around kind of the procedural nature of his claims. And I think that we have to kind of delve into the substance and kind of figure out what's what. And we don't have the answers right now. And that's very frustrating to a member of the intelligence oversight kind of function that I'm part of.
What, I mean, now, one of the things that Mr. Grush talked about in the open hearing, he said that there had been non-human biologics. Is that some of the type of things that you guys have gotten into and that they have not been as forthcoming on, alien spacecraft or something that's not human?
Look, everybody is wondering about the substance of those claims. And until we actually look at those specifically and try to get answers about those claims are just going to be out there. And so that's what we need to kind of delve into. And unfortunately, I just wasted time in there not kind of figuring out whether those were true, and instead kind of dancing around the edges, talking about things that aren't really as important to me. All that being said, I think that Mr. Grush has made some claims, and he needs to be treated with some respect, and we need to get into the substance of his claims.
Was that asked about the non-human biologics and the alleged alien spacecraft?
I can't get into the specifics of the hearing, but let's just say that all of us were very interested in the substance of his claims, and unfortunately, I didn't get the answers that I was hoping for. I gotta go.
Thank you,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Christopher.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Congressman.
Ms. Lohner, good morning. How are
Hey,
you?
how are you?
Over here.
Okay.
We got to talk about this more.
Okay.
So, I mean, does any of this go toward your conversation about trying to get this bipartisan bill? I mean, is there something that touched on this?
I mean, look, I think that the bipartisan bill came out of a discussion at our first hearing to ensure that pilots have an ability to report UAPs. There right now is no system for pilots or aviation personnel to report UAPs, whatever UAPs may be, and so the bill would actually do that. Obviously, we can't talk about the details of the briefing, but I think there was some interesting information, and so I think that this is a topic that I think is a national security issue, and it's really important that there's disclosure and transparency. I think that's what the public wants. I think it's also a very serious topic, and so we've got to just take it with seriousness. It is not a joke.
And without giving up state secrets here, we had a couple other members who were just here who said they were disappointed in what they were bipartisan, Democrat or Republican. But one member used the term that what they were exploring here were, her phrase, interdimensional beings. Is that something that we're dealing with here potentially?
I mean, I think it's easy to be disappointed when you don't get all the information that you want, which I understand. I would have loved to receive much more information, but I think that it's reasonable to say that everyone that was in the room received probably new information. I certainly did, and I think it's interesting. Additional information to continue the investigation and ask more questions. So definitely have more questions than less questions.
Does that term mean anything to you?
I'm not going to get into any terms. I just think that it's more important to focus on that this is a serious topic and it deserves serious attention. And I actually encourage also members of the media to continue covering this topic. I think that's really important. It is not a fringe topic. It is a serious national security topic.
Continuing the investigation, what does that mean? Is that more hearings? Is that, like, what do you think?
Well, I mean, as the ranking member of the subcommittee that oversees obviously this topic, I would like to have more hearings. And so I think we've made that request already of the committee, and I think that the hearing requires more investigation.
Who would you like to hear from next?
Look, I think it's public knowledge that everyone, folks, this is an interdepartmental effort as it relates to the agencies involved in oversight and in the UAP conversation. And so it's obviously not just the Defense Department, I think, which is at the center of this, but also our intelligence agencies.
Are you satisfied with the answers you're getting from the intelligence community today during the briefing?
I mean, I would not describe it that way. I mean, I understand that classification is complicated, and I certainly want more answers. But sure, I would have loved to receive more information, but I would not characterize the discussion as not providing new information, and certainly interesting information.
One of your colleagues said that they seem to keep sending people who either intentionally don't know or intentionally not going to say, as opposed to just.
I would disagree with that assessment. I think that you have serious professionals that have long distinguished records in public service. They're trying their best to navigate a very complex issue, and yes, it's true that probably all of us want more answers and more information. But I think that we received additional information today, which I think will lead to other actions.
Is this stuff overclassified?
I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I'd like it to be less classified.
Did you learn anything that bothered you or shook your beliefs?
I think we want more information.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.